Good morning, everyone. It's Miss Chaos. Thanks for coming back to my channel. The last week has flown by so quickly. I think that happens when I tend to play a lot of video games. It's just poof, time vanishes. But aside from that, I had a few things that I kept in my schedule, including getting the blood work done for the health checkup. And the other one is I went to a grocery store that was a bit further away. A Korean grocery store because I mostly cook Korean food, and I set up a feast for my friends yesterday, including the kimchi jjigae, the steamed egg, the 계란찜, and we also had the not pork cutlet, fish cutlet that was from the store, but I also treated myself to that because I like to treat myself not like a sweet treat, but like a healthy treat here and there. That kind of doesn't make sense since I bought fried stuff, but it's still healthier than junk food, right? Well, yeah. Reflecting back on my experience trying to cook for myself, I find most often that I was eating not cooked food for myself, but mostly like store-bought food or junk food or eating at a restaurant, takeouts, most of the past 5-10 years since I was early 20s, since I was a university student. I guess I just kept on not really caring for myself in terms of cooking for it. So I guess I just sort of didn't really feel the need to cook for myself, because even with the income at the time, I was able to buy food outside, not necessarily having to cook. I was an extreme introvert at that time, going out almost every day of the weekends, and whenever I wasn't, even especially on the weekdays, because my work schedule was a bit sporadic. That means I was not necessarily having to work from Monday to Friday at a set given time. And my work, because I worked on film, it actually gave me a lot of free food. So because of that, I really didn't feel the need to cook, because sometimes they even offered to take it home, and I would absolutely accept that. You can bet that the people from the food truck and the catering companies cooked way better than anything I could whip up. So that's why I've sort of neglected my responsibility as an adult to sustain myself. Anyway, fast forward many years. I started to realize that it was not sustainable to rely on food from outside, from restaurants, not only for financial reasons but for health reasons too. To make profit off of restaurant business, you simply have to get the ingredients at the cheapest rate and sell them at a highest rate. That's how you make profit in food industry. So the best ingredients are and will always be used by housewives who go grocery shopping and select the best ingredients for their family or for themselves. So I went through years of trial. I tried to, because I had zero experience when I started that at the time, I would go to a grocery store, and then I didn't have any database. I didn't know really what kind of ingredients were required for what type of food. I didn't really know what kind of food I would like to cook for myself at home. And often I would go walk to the store and then come back either empty-handed or just like a couple like sausage and some bread. It's a couple ingredients that does not really involve a lot of cooking, but that was the first step. And obviously that wouldn't sustain me, so I would still resort to deliveries and takeouts. But after I get through that, another weeks or months, I would try again. Let's try to actually find the recipes that I want. And that's when I started following a lot of YouTubers and Instagram channels that only showed cooking. And I would bookmark them, even though I may not look at them again. But I thought I would later, and I do, years later. So that's how I started building my database, figuring out what kind of recipes I would like to try, actually trying cooking them and not liking most of them. In fact, most of the recipes that I do use regularly now went through a few trial and error The first few times, it always turns out a little bit differently, but I now know that's a stepping stone to getting to where I really want to, or cooking the food that I really enjoy for myself. And another, so let's go back to that. That's how I started. And then after a few years of trying like that, giving up and trying again, giving up, trying again, I was maybe cooking for myself half the time. So what that means, I would get groceries, and sometimes I would have to waste it. Sometimes I would be able to at least go through it all because I just wouldn't get too much. At one point, getting too much was obviously an issue. That's why I stopped shopping for certain items from Costco, because no matter how good of a price it may be for families, as a single person, I just couldn't get through it all. And some might say, just put it in the freezer or fridge, or freezer. And I have done that too. But sometimes, you forget, or you don't feel like eating it because you have this weird obsession / hankering for freshly cooked food, growing up on it. Overall, my perfectionism got in the way of a lot of trial and error, but that's also a learning experience. So fast forward to another couple more years, I find myself naturally gravitating towards food that I cook for myself at home. And in the same line of thinking, I actually start doing reflection about what is preventing me from continuing to provide sustenance for myself. Because in the past, if I failed to do so, I would just give up, and because I wouldn't have the energy to even think at that point, I would get food and kind of feel ashamed, so I would stop thinking about it. But at that point in my life, I started wondering, why is it that I can't continue to do that? And because I've already made the same mistakes many, many times, the shame or the guilt is not as great as before. So I was able to objectively think about it and come to realize that, I don't start cooking early enough. I wait until I go through all my food, and when I actually am ready to cook, I don't have the energy, so I lose the inclination. So what does that say? It says that I was starting to revisit my routines, my habits, my karma. The reason I go through this in painstaking detail, my sort of journey / chronology into transitioning over from store-bought and outside food to more home inside food, that's a weird way of saying it, but that's how I think, is because for perhaps the first time, when I went grocery shopping with my friend, I was able to naturally gravitate towards certain items that I know that I will be using due to my experience of having cooked various meals, and sort of meal plan in my head for the next week or two, which is sort of mind-blowing for me, because I think it's pretty new to me too. Because until recently, when I go grocery shopping, I have the objective for the next, 3-4 days. That was the extent of my planning. But this time, I was able to amalgamate these 3 days, 5 days meal plan into a week or two, and that's been my goal from the beginning. And of course, I have to mention that I'm privileged and lucky to be living near a grocery store that I could visit so frequently, that my work schedule also allows me for that. That's one thing. And another thing that I want to celebrate is the fact that I have not ordered Uber Eats at all. 0 for the past month. The month of July. And I think the month of August as well. So that's, of course, I want to celebrate it. I want to celebrate it because this full month, it may not be another month. I may not be able to sustain that when my work begins again. It gets pretty crazy in the fall. But I am so humbled and grateful to myself for not giving up. Despite numerous tries, I felt as if I would eventually get to where I am today. And to feel that I am almost there or sort of there gives me such immense pleasure and satisfaction with myself. This is just one way of demonstrating how I can be the master of my own will and my life. I, I'm so grateful. And another thing that I want to mention, sorry, I'm scratching right here. Another thing I mentioned is that in the process of doing this, in the process of caring for myself in this regard, I started to find new ways to enjoy my life. In other words, I found that I take a lot of pleasure from cooking for my friends as well. So when I was grocery shopping, when I was shopping yesterday, I kept thinking in terms of, oh, I can do all of these, but what does she like? What does she like the most based on what I have treated her so far? And after having cooked dinner and seeing her go for like seconds and even thirds, I was so impressed and so happy that I was able to provide. That I had skills within myself that allow me to express myself and create. So it was a really gratifying experience overall. And I still have a lot of work to do because I still have a ton of ingredients that I just have not even worked with. But now that I have a baseline, I feel confident that I'll be able to sustain this for a longer period of time than before. I I feel like I babbled a bit here and there, but I'm just a bit excited, and yeah, so that's how it is. For those who may be sort of struggling with keeping up with healthy diet, just understand that it's a tall order. It's a challenge, and what you need the most is not the budget, um, not the recipe, not the perfect kitchen setup, but simply your willpower and your mindset that if you continue to try, you will eventually get to be wherever you want to be. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week. It's Miss Chaos. Bye.